Let me start by saying something that you might find surprising given the title of this video. One of my favorite movies of all time is Schindler's List. When I saw Spielberg's Oscar-winning Holocaust movie, I told myself it was the most immersive, horrific depiction of the Holocaust because I was swept away by the documentary-like style, putting us right in the thick of the bloodshed, telling the story from multiple perspectives in what can only be described as a global catastrophe. The Pianist is, however, a different film altogether. While also dealing with similar subject matter, Roman Polanski's 2003 film is told mostly through the eyes of Polish pianist Wladyslaw Szpilman, played by a magnificent Adrien Brody, as the character and his family gradually fall under the oppression of the Nazi occupation in Warsaw, where Schindler's List is primarily the story of one man's struggle to save the Jewish people. The Pianist is a story of survival for a single Polish Jew in an increasingly bleak environment, and as a screenplay, I think The Pianist succeeds in showing incredible restraint while also conveying the brutality of war.
I think what's wonderful about this story is that it's not a general perspective of it, but it focuses on one man's struggle and one man's strength through all of that.
The fact that Polish director Roman Polanski is himself a Holocaust survivor, losing his own mother to the gas chambers in Auschwitz, is astounding in that he had the resolve to tackle this subject matter at all. And yet, how many other people could portray the desolation of the Holocaust as accurately as someone who has lived through it himself?
He's been there. He lived there. He was a child. He saw his mother taken to Auschwitz, never coming back. He lived through all this horror, and you realized almost everything happened in this film is Roman Polanski's childhood, is his life, is what he suffered through, what he saw, what he experienced, is what he is.
From the post-apocalyptic production design of the Warsaw Ghetto to the gradual desaturation of the picture with time, it feels like Szpilman's perspective and environment is largely informed not only by the source material and autobiography by Szpilman himself, but also by the personal experiences of Polanski.
It's a unique situation because Roman is a survivor, and he survived similar things that Szpilman survived. He's a survivor telling this story about a survivor.
By putting us in Szpilman's shoes, Polanski firmly makes us a passenger in Szpilman's personal journey, from confident, well-respected pianist to a target on the run. During this transition, we see windows as a metaphor for the isolation of the Jewish community, allowing the audience an outlet to observe the escalation of violence, while also telling us that we, like the characters, are trapped in an enclosed space. In this scene, we see the Szpilman family witnessing from the safety of their home a Jewish family being persecuted and killed in the opposite building. Later in the film, we see Szpilman looking from his room window at a firefight occurring on the street below him. This happens in several instances throughout the film, where we, along with our protagonist, are bystanders to these events, like a fly on the wall, rarely involved in the action itself. When the Warsaw Uprising begins, we see only whatever Szpilman sees, a small sample of the chaos unfolding elsewhere. And part of the horror I think Polanski is trying to depict is that sense of helplessness while your home is being destroyed around you, the fear that despite being away from the worst of it for now, the danger is still very much on our doorstep, and the knowledge that it will take not only our wits, but a fair amount of good fortune to come out of it alive.
A lot of people with a powerful human spirit did not survive.
That's correct.
It does not automatically mean you can survive something that is, that kind of awesome force against you and against the people.
It taught me so much and reminded me so much about the pain that does exist in the world, the suffering, and yet made me really grateful for my good fortune.
Unlike audiences watching this movie, people who lived in these conditions had no sense of when it was all going to end. Polanski uses all of this to trigger the part of us that wants to hide in a room and come out when it's all over, much like our protagonist. Where some say film is an exercise in escapism or the tendency to distract oneself from the harshness of reality, I think The Pianist is more an exercise in escapology, where Szpilman is constantly battling to escape, to survive. When Szpilman is being forced to work as a bricklayer for the Nazis, we long for his escape from certain death. When Szpilman eventually runs away, we long for him to escape detection for as long as he can. We feel his paranoia and suffering as if we were playing the longest and most dangerous game of hide and seek. As the violence intensifies further, Polanski expertly takes us through Szpilman's increasing desperation to survive, searching for food, water, and shelter in a city that has been ruined off-screen. This reaches its crescendo when Szpilman is discovered by the German Captain Hossenfeld in what is probably the film's more well-known scenes. It is this scene that underscores the sheer dumb luck that Szpilman benefited from in order to stay alive, and shows the audience that humanity can be found even in the darkest of places. Upon seeing the film, the great critic Roger Ebert wrote in his review that by showing Szpilman as a survivor but not a fighter or a hero, as a man who does all he can to save himself but would have died without enormous good luck and the kindness of a few non-Jews, Polanski is reflecting, I believe, his own deepest feelings, that he survived but need not have, and that his mother died and left a wound that had never healed.
All my family was killed. My father survived a very hard concentration camp, Mauthausen in Austria. I was a kid and I wanted to live. I wanted to see my parents. Among all possible type of suffering, the greatest was the separation from the parents. I think for the child this is the saddest and most tragic, I would say.
I think the story of Wladyslaw Szpilman's resolve and trauma does mirror the journey of Polanski's own life, given his tragic and criminal past, and his desire to keep making movies in spite of all that. But I'm going to need another video to discuss those details in more depth. For now, all I believe is that Roman Polanski's work on The Pianist will be remembered for depicting the triumph of the human spirit, seen from the eyes of someone running from war, rather than someone involved directly in the war. The film deserves its place in the annals of the great historical movies that offer us a fleeting glance into a different time, a different community, and at the core, an individual's incredible experience.
I wanted it to look like scenes in life. I didn't want to give more than it's necessary. We just had to tell the story, and tell the story honestly, to our best recollection, at least those who remember those times, tell it the way it was, no more, no less.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you learned something new. The Pianist is an incredible film that I just knew I had to make a video about. If you like the movie, if you've seen it, if you have an interpretation, comment below. I'd love to know what you guys think. I'd love to start a discussion. If you want to see more video analysis like this from me, then click that subscribe button above, because there's more where that came from. I'll be back with another video for you guys soon. So until next time, have a great week ahead, maximum hype, and I'll see you next time.